I stood proudly at our son Ethan's graduation, tears in my eyes as he crossed the stage. Suddenly, Jason, my husband of 25 years, handed me a brown envelope. "It's over, Elena. I found someone else," he whispered coldly. My hands shook as I opened the divorce papers. His mother, Mrs. Carter, just stared, completely calm as if she already knew. I looked at both of them, swallowed my pain, and said softly, "I have something to say too. Don't miss what happens next. Like, subscribe and turn on the bell so you won't miss this shocking story." I never imagined my life would turn out like this. Standing there at Ethan's graduation with divorce papers in my hand, it felt like the ground had disappeared beneath me. But maybe, deep down, I should have seen it coming. Maybe I had been ignoring the cracks for far too long. Let me take you back to the beginning. Jason and I met in college. He was tall, charming, and had this spark in his eyes that made me feel like I was the only woman in the world. Back then, we had nothing. We lived in a tiny apartment with broken windows, borrowed furniture, and empty kitchen shelves. But we were happy. We were partners. We believed in each other. I worked long hours as a waitress to support us while Jason studied to get his business degree. I remember skipping meals so he could eat, sewing my old clothes to make them last, and telling him every single day, "We're going to make it. You just have to believe." And he did. When Jason finally got a job, our life slowly changed. We moved to a better apartment. I got pregnant with Ethan. Jason promised me the world, that he would build a future for us and make me the happiest woman alive. And I believed him. Oh, I believed every word. I gave up my dreams so Jason could chase his. I stayed home, raised Ethan, cooked, cleaned, and took care of his mother, Mrs. Carter, like she was my own. She wasn't always the cold woman she is now. In those days, she would call me her daughter. We'd sit together, drink tea, and talk about life. She'd tell me, "Elena, you're the glue that holds this family together." I didn't know then how quickly people could change. As Jason's company grew, so did his distance from me. He started coming home late, missing family dinners, and spending more time on business trips. At first, I told myself he was just working hard. After all, I had supported him for years, and now it was his time to shine. But things didn't feel right. The little things started adding up. He stopped noticing when I got my hair done. He forgot our anniversary. He would leave his phone face down, always locked, always guarded. But whenever I asked if something was wrong, he'd smile and say, "You're just overthinking, Elena. You know I love you." And I wanted to believe that. I really did. But the nights grew colder. He stopped calling me my love and started calling me hey. He would walk past me in the kitchen like I was invisible. I remember standing in front of the mirror, touching the lines on my face, wondering if I had become boring to him, if maybe I wasn't enough anymore. I held on to the hope that maybe, just maybe, we could fix it. I thought about Ethan. I thought about our family. I thought about everything we had built. I told myself, just wait until Ethan graduates. Then we can finally take that vacation we always dreamed of. Maybe Jason just needs time. Maybe he's just stressed. But I was wrong. Looking back, the signs were everywhere. I just didn't want to see them. I didn't want to believe that the man I sacrificed everything for would betray me. I didn't want to believe that Mrs. Carter, the woman I called Mama for years, would turn her back on me. But the truth was already crawling into my life like poison, and I was too blind to notice. Still, I stayed. I kept cooking his meals. I kept folding his shirts. I kept waiting for the man I married to come back to me. But sometimes, love isn't enough to save a sinking ship. Sometimes, no matter how tightly you hold on, the person you love is already letting go. And Jason had let go long before that graduation day. Now, as I stood in front of everyone, holding those divorce papers, I realized something. I had spent years being the perfect wife, the perfect mother, the perfect daughter-in-law. I had spent so much time making sure everyone else was happy that I had forgotten about myself. But not anymore. I looked at Jason, I looked at his mother, and I knew this was not the end of my story. After that day at Ethan's graduation, my mind kept spinning back to all the moments I had ignored. I kept asking myself, how did I not see this sooner? The signs were right in front of me, but I chose to look the other way. It all became clear the day I found Jason's second phone. It was a rainy Tuesday afternoon. I had taken Jason's car to the mechanic because he was busy, or so he said. While waiting for the car to be checked, I decided to clean up the glove compartment. That's when I saw it, a small black phone hidden under a pile of papers. It wasn't his usual phone. Jason's phone was always in his pocket, guarded like treasure. But this one was a secret. I hesitated for a moment, my heart pounding in my chest. I didn't want to be that wife, the one who spies and snoops. But something inside me, maybe the years of doubt, maybe the silent dinners, maybe the forgotten anniversaries, pushed me to turn it on. It wasn't locked. The first thing I saw was a message from someone saved as Diana. I miss you already. I can't wait until you're finally mine. Did you tell her yet? I scrolled through more messages. They had been talking for months, planning trips, laughing at inside jokes, complaining about me. I sat there, gripping the phone so tightly my knuckles turned white. The rain outside grew heavier, but I couldn't hear anything. All I could hear were the words in those messages, playing over and over in my head like sharp knives. Jason had built a life with another woman, right under my nose. When I got home, I placed the phone on the dining table and waited for him to return. Hours passed. I sat there, quiet, frozen, not even knowing what I would say. When Jason finally walked through the door, he was laughing into his main phone. When he saw the second phone sitting in front of me, his face dropped. "Where did you get that?" he asked sharply. I looked at him, my voice calm but firm. "Your car. You forgot to hide it better this time." His jaw tightened. For the first time, he didn't try to deny it. He crossed his arms and said coldly, "So what? It's over, Elena. I've moved on. I've just been waiting for the right moment to tell you." "After Ethan's graduation?" I asked, my voice trembling. Jason shrugged like it was nothing. "I didn't want to ruin his big day, but since you found out early, maybe this is for the best." For the best? After everything I gave, everything I sacrificed, everything I held together for this family? I wanted to scream. I wanted to cry. But I didn't. I just sat there, staring at him, feeling something inside me slowly harden. Before I could say anything else, his mother walked in. Mrs. Carter had a key to our house, and she often visited without notice. She immediately sensed the tension. "What's going on?" she asked. Jason didn't even hesitate. "She found out about Diana." Mrs. Carter didn't look surprised. In fact, she sighed, as if she had been expecting this. "Elena," she said quietly, "sometimes marriages don't last. It happens. You'll be fine." That's all she said. No anger toward her son, no comfort for me, just cold acceptance. That was the moment I realized Mrs. Carter had known all along. I had spent years caring for her, loving her, calling her mama, but she had been standing on Jason's side the entire time, even as he betrayed me. I didn't argue. I didn't cry. I simply stood up and said, "Thank you for showing me who you really are." I left the room, went to Ethan's bedroom, and closed the door behind me. It was clear now. Jason had made his choice. His mother had made hers, and I was about to make mine. Don't miss the next part. Hit like, subscribe, and turn on the bell so you'll see how this story unfolds. You won't believe what happens next. After finding Jason's secret phone and hearing him admit to the affair so casually, I should have left right then. I should have packed my bags and walked away. But something in me refused to move so quickly. I needed answers. I needed to understand how the people I loved could betray me so easily. So a few days later, I visited Mrs. Carter. I told Jason I was going to the market, but instead, I drove to his mother's house. She lived just across town in the same cozy home Jason and I helped her buy years ago. I still remembered the day we handed her the house keys. She hugged me so tightly and whispered, You're my daughter now. I knocked softly. When she opened the door, her face didn't carry the usual warmth. It was like she already knew why I was there. Elena, she said without much emotion. Come in. We sat in her living room, just like we used to, but this time the air was heavy and cold. I didn't know where to start, so I just asked, How long have you known? She didn't pretend to be confused. She didn't even flinch. Long enough? She said, stirring her tea calmly. It's been almost a year. A year. A whole year she sat with me, laughed with me, ate the meals I cooked while knowing her son was building a life with another woman. I felt my throat tighten. And you didn't think I deserved to know? Mrs. Carter put her cup down gently and leaned back in her chair. Elena, I was trying to protect the family. These things happen. Men stray. It's just life. You've been a good wife, but Jason's heart isn't with you anymore. Her words cut through me like sharp glass. I've been a good wife? I repeated, barely able to believe her. I gave this family everything. I stood by him when he had nothing. I raised our son, and I cared for you like my own mother. She sighed, looking almost bored. Yes, and you did well. But now it's time to let him go. Let him go? Just like that? It felt like all those years meant nothing to her. She continued, Jason has moved on. Diana is young. She makes him happy. He didn't want to hurt you, but you found out sooner than he planned. I could feel my chest burning, but I refused to cry in front of her. So you've been helping him lie to me? Mrs. Carter's face softened just a little. I was trying to help you. I thought if I kept quiet, you would have time to accept it. I didn't want you to embarrass yourself by begging him to stay. Beg? Me? I realized right then that Mrs. Carter never saw me as family. I had been useful, convenient, a loyal placeholder until Jason was ready to upgrade his life. I swallowed my pain and asked, Was Ethan supposed to know too? Were you planning to keep it from him? Her eyes flickered for the first time. No, Jason didn't want Ethan to find out. He still respects you as his mother. He thought it was best to wait until after his graduation so the day wouldn't be ruined. Ruined? The day was already ruined. I sat there in silence for a moment, letting her words settle inside me like stones. Then I slowly stood up. Thank you for being honest, I said quietly. Mrs. Carter gave me a weak smile, like she thought I had finally accepted my place. You'll be fine, Elena. You're a strong woman. I looked her straight in the eye and said, Yes, I am. But not for the reason she thought. When I left her house that day, I didn't feel weak. I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Clear. Jason thought he could plan everything without me noticing. Mrs. Carter thought I would quietly step aside. They thought I would walk away with nothing, but I wasn't walking away. I was getting ready. They had made their plans in secret. Now I would make mine. After my talk with Mrs. Carter, something inside me changed. For years I had been the woman who kept quiet, who accepted the small hurts, who believed in family no matter what. But now, I realized I had spent my whole life protecting people who never thought about protecting me. It was time to protect myself. I didn't cry. I didn't beg Jason to stay. I didn't shout. I simply went home, sat in my room, and started thinking carefully about what to do next. Jason believed I would just sign the divorce papers and walk away with nothing. He thought I was too weak, too soft, too afraid to fight him. He had no idea what I was capable of. I started by visiting an old friend, Laura. She was a sharp, smart lawyer who had helped a few women I knew during their divorces. I trusted her. When I told her everything, she simply said, Elena, it's time to stop being quiet. With Laura's help, we began building my case carefully, piece by piece. The first thing we did was gather all the proof of Jason's affair. I still had his secret phone. I had screenshots of his messages with Diana, photos of their trips, and even recordings of some of their calls. Jason had been sloppy. He thought I would never find out, and that made it easy for me to collect everything. But that wasn't enough. I wanted to go deeper. Years ago, when Jason's business was struggling, he had begged me to help him. We didn't have much, but he wanted to protect his small company from falling into debt. I remember him asking me to sign the company shares under my name, saying, "If anything happens, they can't take the company if it's in your name. I trust you more than anyone." I had completely forgotten about it, and so had he. When I pulled out the old documents from our home office, my hands trembled. The papers clearly showed that I still owned the majority of the company, 60% to be exact. Jason had never changed it back. He had been too busy chasing success and, later, chasing Diana. He had forgotten that the woman he wanted to throw away still legally owned most of what he had worked for. Laura's eyes lit up when she saw the documents. "Elena, this changes everything. You have real power here." Quietly, we moved fast. I filed the necessary legal papers to take control of Jason's company. I gathered information about his hidden bank accounts and secret investments. I made sure I had everything ready before he could move anything out of reach. Jason was still walking around the house, acting like nothing had changed. He was cold but calm, thinking he was in full control. He would come home late, barely say a word to me, and talk on the phone with Diana as if I didn't exist. But I stayed quiet. I cooked dinner. I folded his shirts. I smiled when he looked at me, just like I always had. Let him believe I was defeated. Let him believe he had already won. I didn't tell Ethan anything. I didn't want to hurt him or make him choose between us. He loved his father, and I wanted him to enjoy his graduation without this heavy truth on his shoulders. But I knew that soon, everything would come out. Jason had set his plan. Mrs. Carter had agreed to it. Diana was waiting for him to finally leave me, but none of them knew I had already turned the game around. They thought I would walk away with nothing. They were wrong. The day I had been waiting for finally arrived, Ethan's graduation. It should have been one of the happiest days of our lives. I should have been able to stand there with my family, feeling nothing but pride. But deep inside, I knew this day would be different. Jason had made his move, and I was ready to make mine. The morning started as if everything was normal. I helped Ethan with his gown, hugged him tightly, and told him how proud I was. He smiled at me, full of excitement, with no idea of the storm waiting to break. Jason was unusually calm, almost distant, as if he was carrying a secret that made him feel powerful. Mrs. Carter was cheerful, pretending like we were still one happy family. But I could see through her now. We arrived at the graduation hall smiling for photos, clapping as Ethan's name was called, pretending everything was perfect. I watched my son walk across the stage and felt my heart swell with love and sadness at the same time. This moment wasn't about me or Jason, it was about Ethan. I promised myself I wouldn't let Jason ruin this for him. But Jason didn't care. As soon as the ceremony ended and the crowd began to gather for photos, Jason called out to me in front of everyone, family, friends, even Ethan's classmates and their parents. He walked toward me and handed me a brown envelope. His voice was cold and sharp. "It's over, Elena. I've found someone else. I've already filed for divorce." Gasps filled the air. Some people stared. Others pretended not to notice. I could feel all eyes on me, waiting to see if I would cry, shout, or beg him to reconsider. But I didn't. I slowly opened the envelope, saw the divorce papers, and carefully folded them back. My hands didn't shake. My heart didn't race. I had prepared for this moment. I looked at Jason, then at Mrs. Carter, who stood beside him without a trace of shame. She knew. She had always known. And now, she stood proudly by his side as if she supported what he had done. I smiled softly, almost sadly, and said, "Thank you for finally being honest." Jason looked surprised, as if he expected me to break down right there in public. But I remained calm. I could feel the weight of my plan pressing against my chest, and I knew I wasn't the weak woman he thought I was. I turned to face the crowd, my voice steady. "Since we're making announcements today, I think it's a good time to share mine." Jason frowned. "What are you talking about, Elena?" This isn't the place. But I kept going. I told everyone that I had made some decisions about the future, decisions that would change everything for Jason. I didn't reveal everything yet. I wanted him to sit with his fear. I wanted him to feel what it was like to not be in control. Mrs. Carter's smile slowly faded. Jason's face tightened. He realized something was wrong, but he didn't know what. "I'll explain everything soon," I said calmly, holding the divorce papers in my hand. "But for now, let's celebrate our son. He deserves to enjoy this day." I looked at Ethan, who had been watching silently, confusion on his face. I gently touched his shoulder and whispered, "This is not your fault. None of this is your fault." He nodded, still unsure of what was really happening. Jason didn't say another word. He simply turned away, probably thinking he had already won. But he hadn't. As I stood there smiling for photos with Ethan, I knew my moment was coming. I had stayed quiet long enough. I had gathered my strength. I had everything in place. The real announcement, the one that would crush Jason and his mother, was only a few steps away. A week after Ethan's graduation, Jason sent me a message. "I'll come by to collect my things. Let's not make this difficult, Elena. You knew this was coming." I smiled when I saw it. He still thought he was in control. He believed I would quietly sign the divorce papers and hand him everything he wanted. He believed I would walk away like a silent shadow. But Jason didn't know what I had prepared. The day he arrived, he brought his mother with him. Mrs. Carter walked in like she owned the house, like she had already erased me from their story. Jason's tone was cold, like we were strangers. "Elena, let's not waste time. We can settle this peacefully if you just accept the terms." He pushed a folder across the table. Inside were the divorce papers again, along with a list of things he planned to keep: the house, the cars, his company, and most of our savings. I flipped through the pages slowly. I could see Jason getting impatient. He was waiting for me to break. Mrs. Carter was watching closely, probably ready to comfort her son if I dared to argue. But I didn't argue. I simply smiled and said, "Actually, Jason, I have something for you too." I handed him a letter, an official notice from my lawyer. His hands shook slightly as he read the first few lines. His eyes widened. He looked at me, his mouth opening and closing like he couldn't find his words. "This isn't possible," he whispered. "Oh, but it is," I said calmly. "You see, you never transferred the company shares back into your name. I still own 60%. I filed the legal documents to remove you as the company head. You've been officially removed." His face turned pale. "You can't do this." "I already did," I said softly. Mrs. Carter stepped forward, her voice trembling. "Elena, think about what you're doing. This is Jason's life. You've been his wife for so long." I cut her off, still calm. "Yes, I was his wife. I gave him everything. I raised Ethan. I built this home. I cared for you like my own mother. And both of you threw me away like I was nothing." Jason slammed his hand on the table. "You don't understand. I worked for that company." I looked him straight in the eye. "And I protected it. When you were drowning in debt, you asked me to put everything in my name. You said you trusted me. You forgot all about that. I didn't." His voice cracked. "You wouldn't do this to me. You're not like this." Mrs. Carter tried to step in again, but I turned to her and said, "You told me to let him go. You told me men stray. Well, I'm letting him go, but I'm not walking away empty-handed." Jason's hands trembled as he flipped through the legal notice again, realizing that his hidden bank accounts had been found, his company had been secured by me, and the little life he was building with Diana was about to crumble. "And by the way," I added quietly, "Diana might be expecting a life of luxury, but you won't have much to offer her now." The room went silent. I could see it in Jason's eyes. The moment he realized he had lost. The moment he understood that the woman he thought was weak had been preparing for this very moment. Mrs. Carter sat down heavily, her face full of regret. "Elena, we didn't mean for it to go this far." I stood up, my voice firm. But you let it go this far. You watched it happen. You helped him hide it. Jason lowered his head, defeated. I gathered my papers, took one last look at the two of them, and said, "This chapter is over." I walked out of the room, my steps steady, my heart calm. I had spent years being the perfect wife, the perfect mother, the perfect daughter-in-law. But now I was finally being perfect for myself. After I walked out of that room, I didn't look back. For the first time in years, I felt light. I had spent so long carrying the weight of a broken marriage, a dishonest husband, and a mother-in-law who smiled to my face while hiding the truth behind my back. Now I was finally free. Jason didn't contact me for days after the announcement. I knew he was busy scrambling to save what he could, but it was too late. The paperwork was solid, the bank accounts were frozen, and the company had already shifted to my name. It was all over for him. When he finally did reach out, his tone had changed. No more coldness, no more arrogance, just quiet, broken words. "Elena, please, we can fix this. Just give me another chance." I was angry. I wasn't thinking straight. I read his message and softly shook my head. After everything he had done, the betrayal, the public humiliation, the years of lies, now he wanted to talk. Now he wanted to fix what he had so quickly thrown away. But I was no longer the woman who waited for him to come home. I ignored his message. I ignored the calls from his lawyer, who later begged to renegotiate the divorce terms. There was nothing left to discuss. Jason was now the outsider, the one left with nothing. His beautiful life with Diana? It crumbled faster than he expected. Diana had wanted Jason's wealth, not his broken promises. When she found out he had lost control of the company and his money was tied up in legal battles, she disappeared, gone without a word. I later heard from a friend that Jason had gone looking for her. But Diana had already moved on to someone else, someone richer, someone more powerful. She had used Jason the same way he thought he could use me. Mrs. Carter tried to visit me a few weeks later. She stood at my door, looking smaller, older, and more tired than I had ever seen her. "Elena, please, can we talk?" she asked, her voice weak. I stepped outside but didn't invite her in. I had to protect my peace now. "I made mistakes," she whispered, her eyes filled with regret. "I thought I was doing the right thing. I thought I was protecting Jason. I didn't realize how much damage I caused until it was too late." I looked at her carefully. For years, I had called this woman Mama. I had trusted her, loved her, respected her. But some wounds don't heal so easily. "I forgive you," I said quietly. "But I won't forget." She nodded, tears filling her eyes. "I just hope you can find happiness now." I didn't answer. I simply wished her well and closed the door gently behind me. As for Ethan, he eventually found out the full truth. I sat him down and explained everything. I thought he would be angry at me or blame me for what happened, but instead he hugged me tightly and said, "Mom, I'm proud of you." His words meant everything to me. Ethan chose to stay close to both of us, but his relationship with Jason changed. There was distance now. Ethan no longer saw his father as the hero he once was. Jason moved out of town, far from everyone who knew what he had done. His reputation was damaged. His friends turned away. His business connections disappeared, and the life he had built so carefully was now gone. Meanwhile, I built something new. I used the company shares to sell my part of the business, took the money, and opened a small cafe in the heart of the city. Something I had always dreamed of doing. I surrounded myself with people who respected me. I found peace. I found strength. I found me. For the first time in years, I woke up in the morning smiling, not because of what I had lost, but because of what I had finally gained. Thank you for following this story. If you loved it, please like, subscribe, and turn on the bell for more powerful stories. Your support means everything. See you in the next one.